I'd like to welcome everyone to the 2012 DBRM retreat. We have a really exciting program today of both guest speakers and folks from in-house telling us their vision for the future of the program and their own laboratories. And I think it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for discussion and interaction about where we think the field is going in the next 5 to 10 years. So we'll start things off without further ado with David's introduction on his thoughts on this matter, and welcome and enjoy the day.
So I guess the first order of business is to say a few thank yous. So Mark and Ellen, thank you very much for organizing the program. Zoe, thank you very much for selecting the venue and doing the arrangements. This is just a beautiful room. So, as you know, at Children's Hospital, which is part of USC, and we have the Saban Research Institute, thanks to the generosity of the Saban family, we create hope and build healthier futures for children as well as for their grandparents. And we do this through regenerative medicine, and I would urge you to take a look at the first page of the program when you get a chance, because I wrote some words there about where we came from and where we're going. But we won't dwell on that at the present moment. Whoops. So, I wonder if we could get rid of that update available window. Can somebody take care of that? So, there's been a fairly high-level process at Children's Hospital to identify new themes for academia and research going forwards. And there are three unifying themes for, there's individualized health and medicine, there's regenerative medicine, and the developing mind. So if we think about this, we all come from one cell, we all develop into a billions of cells, self-assembling, self-repairing human machine. And this is all under the control of the genome. And so...
That's nice that we're not connected to the internet.
Yeah, thank you.
Apology.
Thank you, Scott. I'm glad to have that update.
I'm glad to help you out that way.
Good, yeah. So, these we think are three areas that overlap, a bit like three balls outside the pawnbrokers, but anyway, so you can think about it that way if you like, but the idea is that these three things overlap, and actually they comprise really all of medicine, surgery, psychiatry, anything you like to mention. And the bit that we do is regenerative medicine. And we think that regenerative medicine can invent the future for children through scientific discovery. And the grand challenges that we see here are to transform human malformation, childhood disease, and antecedents of chronic adult diseases, to build and bring to market disruptive regenerative solutions, and to assemble a team and infrastructure capable of exceeding these grand challenges. And this is a target list which we continually update. Actually, the first one should now say the aerodigestive tract, which was just added last week. But the target list for regenerative medicine includes this disruptive science, pediatrics, medicine, surgery, bioimaging, pathology, and engineering solutions. And the underlying scientific idea is that if you can understand the basic science of human developmental biology and imaging and engineering, that you can then influence the fate of stem cells and actually regenerate organs or tissues, which impacts on the practice of pediatrics and surgery. Now I'm just going to give you three examples, and you will see these later on in more detail, but one of our leading candidates are stem cells that are floating around in the amniotic fluid. This is the work of Laura Perrin and Roger Di Filippo. Laura's here in the audience. And the fetus is floating around in these cells. It's a bit like being like a Christmas ball, you know, with Santa Claus in it. And 2% of this stuff that's floating around in there is actually stem and progenitor cells. And if you inject these cells into animals with a kidney disease called Alport disease, they live longer, they pee better, and their glomeruli, instead of fibrosing up like this, remain relatively unfibrotic. You can do the same trick in lung disease, so this is more of a problem in adults than children, but here is fibrosis in the lung of a mouse. This was done with bleomycin. This is a control, and these are 2 mice who got stem cells either at the beginning of the insult or in the middle of the insult, and you can see it either prevents the fibrosis or clears it up, and the cells stick around in the lung. The lung is the first stop for cells because it's a big T strainer, but they stick around. And the third one is making a new piece. So this is Tracy Grickscheidt's lab, necrotizing enterocolitis, a huge problem in premature infants. You can take a good piece of bowel, dissociate it, reassociate it in an organoid unit, put it on a scaffolding, put it in the abdomen, and lo and behold, you get a new string of sausages. And Tracy's actually got an early investigator award from CIOM to try and bring this to the bedside. So that's just 3 examples of targets, and of course we have many more. Now, to put this in context of societal impact, I'm just going to talk about lung disease here because it's something I have to know something about. Chronic lung disease in America costs $50 billion a year and is rising with the demographic changes in the population. Children's Hospital annual revenue, $500 million. One technology-dependent infant with bronchopulmonary dysplasia costs $5 million. And the amount of money I get to spend on regenerative science from our endowments is $400,000. So it's just interesting to think about the relative impact of these monies. And our payoff from this endowment income is actually 40 to 1. Because if you take the income from our endowment and divide that into the net worth of our program, the answer is 41. Actually, it's 42, isn't it? Like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But anyway, this is a major multiplier that I challenge anybody to get in the market. And this is just a public works project. So science is scalable. So here's our present multiplier. Here's what would happen if we got half what we're asking for increased endowment. Here's what would happen if we get all what we're asking for increased endowment. And of course, if we hit on $2 or $3 billion apps, you then ring the bell at the top of the slide and you fund the whole institution from that. You become City of Hope. So it's just an interesting thing to think about science being the only scalable thing actually at the Children's Hospital, or the major scalable thing, because you can't put 2 patients in one bed. You can't put 2 patients in one OR unless they are Siamese twins and you try and saw them in half, right? So so regenerative medicine and surgery is what we're after. It's a synergistic enterprise with Children's, USC, and we're particularly excited to have Andy in the front row here because he's a really major new colleague that we're looking forward to greatly working with. The Saban Institute, and Scott is here with his team from Caltech, and we've been working for them for 2 or 3 years. So here's what happens to the Children's Hospital operating deficit. Right now we lose $1 to $2 million a week, and generous donors pay for that. If we got rid of 10 BPD patients and 12 short gut patients, such as I showed you in those examples, our operating deficit goes away and we go into the black because people will want to buy that. So if we're talking about reducing healthcare costs, this is how we do it, through science, despite what the economists will tell you. So, I don't want you to read this. This is just our target list for novel integrated service lines at Children's Hospital in Cardinal, USC in gold, and Caltech in green, and your eye will probably have alighted upon your particular specialty there because it's there, and if it's not there, we're interested in putting it there. Lastly, the financial vision. What I would like to see at the end of this day is everybody singing in the choir on this slide. So we would like to incentivize investigator-initiated research and synergy, and this is very important because this is where innovation comes from. And we've benchmarked this to competitive packages for investigators that we find in the intramural program at the NIH, Genelia Farms, the Stowers Institute, and the Alaska NIH Clinical Scholars Program. And what happens in these programs is that investigators get hard money, $1 million plus in many cases, to do basically FU research. Whatever you want to do, and this is innovation that you cannot fund through peer review at the NIH. It's so out of the box, okay? Right? And John's having a cow here because he doesn't like the way I do these things. But anyway, the point is that this is five senior, 5 juniors. That comes up to 80 million. To double that, we need to recruit and build our team. That's another 92 million for 5 and 5. And then building infrastructure, I put Broad there in inverted commas, but it could be Saban, it could be famous film star, it could be whatever you like, but we actually need to build capacity in building, and that's Institute for Children's Regenerative Medicine. So a combined target is $300 million. This gives our CEO heartburn, but never mind. It's good for people in senior positions to be challenged. So that's what I have to say. Thank you all for being here. And now we're going to move on to, do we have time for questions? Yeah. Questions? You're being bold, middle stump. So, I think the issue here is that what we want to hear from today is where we want to get to over the next 5 to 7 years. We want to hear really visionary, science-based, but reasonable visionary statements about where people want to get to. And so we have some wonderful plenary sessions. Scott's over there in the at-bat. And everybody in the program gets to give their elevator pitch. You've heard me talk about that. Elevator pitch, 5 minutes. If you're riding up the Bank of America building with the CEO, and you've got 5 minutes to tell him why he should give you a lot of money, right? So, and then and I hope we'll have discussion. And if I don't hear any, I'll pick on people. So, questions? No? Yes?
So what would your elevator pitch be to JT for CERM support?
For CERM support, I think what we have here is a really unique set of scientists and opportunities in the pediatric space, which is underserved right now by CRM. And we're the only place we're one of the few places in the world where this can be done, and probably the only one in California where it can be done. And that what we discover in development and children will be applicable to adults, but the converse is not always true. And so there are a lot of transformational ideas you're going to hear today, which will transform the outcome for cell-based therapy, tissue engineering, organ regeneration, all of these things. And these will be coming down the pike into the clinic in 5 to 7 years' time. We already have stuff that's protected by patent that we want to develop. Our rate-limiting step right now is GMP, manufacturing, and regulatory affairs to get it into the clinic. So that's it. Did that work, David? That's why I invited David, who is, by the way, Vice Chancellor at UC San Diego, so he knows a thing or two about pitching to CRM. Okay.